talked about this kind of thing before, but it's a dangerous line a little bit, right? You have a guy who's using somebody else's gear in a key spot in the bag, playing well, starting to win, competing in majors, not the right word in golf, but significant tournaments. And what happens? What's the look if when the new Mizuno driver comes?
Take two, everybody. What's up? How you living? No putts given. That's what the T-shirt says. So that's what it is. We're back. Last week, a little hiatus, a little out of the office. Went to Titleist, and we saw some things.
Well, I saw some things. When you did your TPI eval, I saw some things that cannot be unseen.
We did a yes, we did a full-on TPI evaluation. We may talk about
Turn
that.
your shoulders. Oh,
no.
Looks like you are.
Oh, wow. I have words to say. I am. I'm fully rotated. You can't tell. Wait. Hold on. There we go. That's it. That's it.
Was it 14 degrees in one direction?
No, it was 16. Damn it.
I think you're wrong.
Round up.
What's tour average?
We're around 60. We're rounding up. We're rounding up. We'll tell you some of that stuff. But anyway, a couple interesting what's in the bag questions or kind of things to clarify. We've talked a little Ben Griffin. We've talked a little Scottie Scheffler because they've both already been in the winner's circle multiple times this year. Obviously, Ben Griffin got his solo win, a bit ago. Scheffler, back-to-back years at Memorial. Scheffler, the least interesting what's bag in the world because he does what we all should actually do, which is when something is working, don't change it.
That's why I try never to have anything work for me. We can always get new things.
So you can, you wonder how much better certain players, get what fits you, figure out what works, and then run it till it dies. I guess we should have known this about Scheffler when he had, that Suburban that he had been driving for however long, had, 200,000 miles on it. Eventually Jim Nantz bought it. I think it was like an auction charity thing, but we should have known then that he was the kind of guy that's going to say, find it, use it, rinse, repeat. I'm the best player in the world. Why would you change? Is there anything in his bag you would tell him to change?
You'd be hard-pressed to make a compelling case, right? Like, hey, you could do better than winning all the time, it seems like.
Constantly
you hear about what a nice guy Scheffler is, but if he's so nice, why doesn't he let anybody else win? Total douche move.
That's a good point. He's not. He plays with friends, but doesn't play friendly games. People, he is. As competitive as they come. So again, expecting still QI10s, right? So still previous generation on the metalwoods. He again another push I'm going to make here for TaylorMade to come out with some Scheffler Protos. I feel like he's more than earned, even if they just change the badging, keep it exactly the same as the P7T Dubs,
P7SS,
something. Give him his due,
people will buy it too. Like, ooh,
of course they would.
Roar's Protos sold out. TaylorMade likes making money. Something's going to happen.
Right. Maybe they, I don't know, maybe they go back to, I don't know. Yeah, what do you do with him? He just continues to win and win and win, I'm sure.
I just love, the Zubs, right? The Shrixon driving iron that he carries with the lead tape that's just, beat to hell. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he it's, I guess, if anything, that's maybe a change. You'll see him pull that 7-wood, put that in like he had at Memorial. He'll go back and forth, obviously, depending on what it is. I would doubt you'd see the 7-wood in play like in the British Open. You could see that more being in play like at Oakmont, but, that's not so much of a change as it is just an adaptation or an addition, to that. But, golly. How about Ben Griffin? So I'd like to congratulate Ben Griffin on playing my irons. I think that's cool. So good work there, Ben.
Yeah.
How good
I
are
mean,
those?
we talked about Ben's bag before. A couple things stand out, right? It's Mizuno staffer, but Ping G430 Max 10K. And I feel like we've talked about this recently, right? The idea of these high MOI drivers can actually benefit faster players more.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Again, one of those
wanted
things
to,
that's those fitting disconnects, I think.
yeah, so I was curious because you saw that, and we had talked about this on the podcast before, but there was definitely a shift from Mizuno in terms of when their drivers went from something they also made to being a focal point to being tour ready. I mean, this transition, and obviously Keith Mitchell winning with it finally after however many years. I think the bridge was like him back to Nick Faldo or something like that, and it was
big.
like,
Yeah,
hey,
it was I want to say it was like 18 years. I could be plus or minus a year or two there, but it was just an incredible run without a Mizuno driver being in the winner's bag. So, yeah.
And so
changing and then maybe unchanging. I don't know.
Well, this is what chatted with Mizuno a little bit to get a little bit better understanding on that. 'Cause, like, that had become part of the contract, right? If you're a Mizuno contract player, driver was part of that. It was a non-negotiable, and they gave players some time to get into it. They did lose some players. I want to say Eddie Pepperell is a name that comes to mind. I think that separated
over the driver requirement.
And so you look at Ben Griffin's bag and go, well, he's playing Ping. What's up? Here's
Ping
what's
driver,
up.
Max Fly golf ball. So what is up, man?
So here's the story. Here's what's going on. So a couple things, and this makes a lot more sense now, which is we know that Mizuno's next generation driver has been in development for a while. There were some things that got pushed a year. It was going to be 25, hopefully something, whatever, and then it got pushed. And so basically what Mizuno did, and I really like this, is with their staffers, they said, hey, we don't necessarily have our next generation product to fit you into yet. So instead of forcing you to play something that's, it could be 3 years old, depending on which model you were in.
Oh, the horror.
Or saying, hey, you had the newest model, I think, is the Max, and say, okay, well, you have to play the most current one, that's the Max. Well, that's not going to work for everybody. They basically gave them a year and said, hey, we're going to give you some latitude to explore other drivers if need be. If that's something you want to do and mess around and whatever.
If you're a little driver curious.
If you're driver curious. And in this specific case, it worked because, as you mentioned, Ben Griffin, he's gained a lot of ball speed in the last 12 to 18 months. And part of, I think, his progression in that from the equipment space was, for him, he's one of these guys that became a very high speed or much higher speed player, that having the 10K as kind of the guardrails was a good thing. And he's playing well with it, doing it. Mizuno's like, yeah, keep going. That's great. I don't think that will be the case whenever we see new metalwoods. When Mizuno feels like they have, a current version that's 100% ready to go, that's tour ready, much as they did before, then you're going to see that return. You'll see Mizuno staffers playing Mizuno drivers. But for this year, for now, like I said, allow them to be a little Mizuno curious. Or be driver.
It strikes me right as talked about this kind of thing before, but it's a dangerous line a little bit, right? You have a guy who's using somebody else's gear in a key spot in the bag, playing well, starting to win, competing in majors, not the right word in golf, but significant tournaments. And what happens? What's the look if when the new Mizuno driver comes? We see a little decline there. So there's some risk in that, but I think Mizuno certainly feels confident in what's coming.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's fair to say. So anyway, that's your quick little tour update. How are you liking your Cozy Earth bed sheets?
My dog ate them.
What?
Zizu chewed. Yeah, it was right where like on the top sheet, it's got the area that's folded over the nice border. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
Yeah, well aware.
He did a little work on that section, and it was one of those where I was like, I'm not going to be able to hide this from my wife. This is not going to go well.
This is going to be tough.
The dog is in the dog house.
Well, fair enough.
So we flipped them upside down, but yeah, they're awesome sheets.
It sounds like you need some new ones, Tony. So I got a deal for you. You're lucky. You're lucky. You're lucky because I called the Cozy Earth people, and they're going to let us keep running. They're going to let us keep running this deal. 40% off. If you use the code NOPUTTS, we'll post it below. 40% off. Whatever.
Here's a putts right here. I got a putts right here.
Oh, is that putts right there? So you're the sheet ruiner.
You're
the sheet ruiner.
He's breaking in some new teeth, so you got to give him a little bit of a break.
Well, you can. But anyway, 40% off on there. I found this interesting. 100 nights. You get 100 nights to try them. I don't know that there's a warranty on dog consumption, but if you just don't like them, no big deal. So, Anyway, there you go. Give them a try. Let's talk. Titliest. We went out to Titleist last week. Oceanside, TPI. A remarkable fitting experience, as it always is. Titleist is a cream of the crop, without a doubt. What did you think?
Yeah, I would say the new T-Series certainly meets, if not exceeds, expectations, kind of based on what we saw in the photos. Mm-hmm. Just look really clean, feel really good, and excellent performance. It was a case of me actually having an opportunity as we were trying to sort through the shaft options, get that dialed in. Just based on what they had in the fitting cart, I ended up trying one shaft in what I guess is still the current generation T350. And what really stood out was the feel difference.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact like the new ones are just longer. But yeah, just a different feel. Steadily improving. It's been an emphasis for Titleist. I don't know how much they're going to talk about it this year as a point, but it's kind of like a quiet improvement, I think, in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're being kind of purposely obtuse here a little bit. We can't go into a lot of details on, technologies, construction, specific improvements, that kind of stuff, until the embargo launches, and so that'll be still a little over a month here and stuff. But yeah, just kind of initial impressions are, it's better, and it's better in a very Titleist way. And what I mean by that is you don't expect... you expect certain things to hopefully change and certain things to not change. I think golfers are going to be really, really excited about what they can do in the models that are, that look a lot different than previous generations, but they've kind of kept the things that were important to previous generation, T100, 150, whatever, and yet still found ways to make improvements on some of those, what those specific improvements are. Stay tuned. We'll tell you when we're allowed to. It's shh. But better. But it led me to a question. We were sitting out there, we were talking, and maybe it's not widely known, maybe it is, I don't know, but the T100 irons are the most played iron model on worldwide tours by professional golfers. And it got me thinking a little bit about why is that? Why, when we look at it, it's not the number one model at retail. It doesn't. No. It's not like we're talking about Golf Pride grips or Pro V1s or somewhere. It's like you have market domination, everywhere. What's your take on that? What is it about the T100 that makes it the quintessential players iron of this current? Obviously people that are playing for money. What makes it that?
I think it's just very well executed for what it's supposed to be. So it's still in every meaningful respect a player's iron. Right? It's not a blade, but it's a compact cavity back. From a performance standpoint, for example, I was when I did my fitting, we started with T100, knowing full well that's not where we were going to land. But seeing spin rates above 7,000 with a 7 iron, right? So you're kind of into more of that traditional, if you will, launch and spin characteristic, but you still have some technology, right? There's tungsten buried deep. So little things like that where you're getting, I suppose, what amounts to an MOI benefit relative to a traditional cavity back, but in a package that still looks familiar, even comfortable. And I think there probably is something to familiarity, like going back to the AP days and even potentially farther back than that in some cases, where we've talked about this over and over and over again with every Titleist release we cover, seemingly, where especially when you're into like stuff that is very tour centric, it's like the step 1 is don't change anything, step 2 is don't screw it up, and then if you can somehow loosely abide by those 2 rules and find a way to make small tweaks and make it just a little bit better, but at the same time kind of stay where you are, and that's something to be said for steady execution,
threading the needle, steady execution. I think trying to think about it from a tour, like obviously if you're on staff with Titleist, I get it. Makes a lot of sense. I understand why that iron model will be popular, but to be the most played model across tours, you have 2 things to play. One, Titleist isn't that company. They're not going to buy equipment counts across tours, so like that's not their MO, so that's not at all what's going on. The other piece of it is like, okay, if you're a player and you're looking at those, part of it is like you said, are there things that are objectionable? Like, you're looking at this and like, why would I not play this? Is it missing something that I need it to do? And you're like, no. Checks all the boxes. And I'm not saying there aren't other irons that are out there that have a similar demographic to it or similar profile to it. And we saw this, obviously during the 1990s. Mizuno killed it on tour after Nike exited the hard goods business. A lot of those guys flocked to Mizuno, Koepka, Fleetwood, a bunch of others. They've since landed other places, but it's hard to look at T100 platforms. Why wouldn't you? What is it about that club you say, I don't want to play that? There's a little bit of this momentum now that if that is it, that's kind of where you're going to start to look, right? Where it's like, okay, this is the most popular, this is the restaurant that most people go to in town, and that, aren't you probably a little curious and going to start looking there? And you go, oh, yeah, there's nothing here I don't like, and there's some stuff I really do like. Okay, I'll go there too. Wow, I liked it just like the 800 people before me liked it. So I think it's a little bit of that too.
Yeah, it has a reputation, guys. Nobody other than Scheffler seems to play well all the time, but there have been, a lot of tournaments won, right, with T100, and again going back AP before that. So yeah, I get it, but it is interesting the disconnect between Titleist share on tour and retail market share. Like it's you would expect there's usually not quite 1-to-1, but yeah, it's typically like if you're number 1 on tour, you're going to be pretty close to number 1 on at the register, and this is maybe I think the one category where there's a significant disconnect.
Probably because, do you think it's fair to say it's because most retail consumers are not better players? And we is talked about better this. Player iron, and so
but again, right? It's not even necessarily that you would expect that a tour iron would be the best-selling model. It's more of a brand thing.
Yeah.
But there is,
Yeah.
I think, an ongoing pervasive misunderstanding, I guess would be accurate, that Titleist doesn't make forgiving irons. They don't make clubs for average players.
Right.
And there was a time when that
Yes.
was arguably true.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly you would say, all right, maybe these stretch into the low to mid double digit handicap.
Right.
But now,
but there were better options out there for that golfer.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. And now, I'm not going to say that Titleist is the best option. You should buy it, but it is an option. That
you can't make the claim that there's only better options out there. Like, okay, well, they don't really. They have viable options in that space. So maybe that's what turns the tide. Who knows? We'll see. Ping last week dropped a couple things on us, as Ping sometimes does, which is kind of walk softly, carry big stick. 2 new irons, well, 1 iron and 1 driving iron, if you will.
Is it or isn't it? I don't.
Itty. Itty. Is it? It's. I don't know. I'm excited to see both of these. Because typically when Ping, there's something good there. There's some fidelity. There's a story to it. We'll see as that develops. But what's your take on the driving iron? Like it? Love it? Hate it?
This to me, like looking at it. I mean, it's tough to get a whole lot from a single picture, but construction wise, it kind of like with that kind of full cavity badging, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminds me of the last couple generations of Titleist irons. Make of that what you will, better or worse, right? And I don't know what the material is. We don't know about the story and the technology. We only know what we see right now.
Right.
And so the big question for me is this IDI, which I presume is I-Series driving iron.
I mean, that makes sense to me. That seems straightforward enough.
So is this the direct replacement for the crossover, which...
it was the I crossover, so that would...
Yeah, and the calendar says that's due. Mm-hmm. So logically it is. And so to me, it's like, all right, what can you do in this space? And this is a category that trends towards the better player. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, sort of this somewhat difficult concept to quantify of easy to hit, mm-hmm. the crossover was absurd.
It was stupid easy to hit.
Super easy to hit. I think I may have told the story before, but it's going on 2 years ago at the test center, and I happened to be down there when driving irons were being tested. And I'm kind of just, I don't get a lot of driving irons. I don't see many of them. Don't spend a lot of time with them. So I'm just a curiosity, just kind of.
You're driving iron curious.
Yeah, grab whack, right? All right, what's working? And I'm like, I grab a TaylorMade, and I'm like, yeah, this looks so good, and I think I'm hitting it well. It's clean. I'm like, yeah, it looks good. And I'm like, all right, let's try the Ping, and it doesn't look as clean. It's not as sexy. And it's carrying 10 loft for loft, 10 plus yards longer, and just, so easy. Like I just felt like I couldn't mishit it.
Easy button.
Yeah, for a driving iron, that's kind of a remarkable thing, especially right if you take that as we've talked about my 2 in the trunk mentality, right? The idea of you need to have, especially if you're a low bounce guy with your lob wedge, you need to have an option available to you on rainy days when turf is soft, or likewise 7-wood guy. If you hit a lot of wind or whatever and you need something that's going to help keep you out of it, it's good to have something else in that spot, whether it's a hybrid or a utility iron, whatever it is. It's going to fly
an IDI 4 iron.
One. Yeah. And so, I'm like, that's an excellent spot as well for something like this. It's just for me, like, the bar is so high for this.
I know. There's some really good ones out there. You mentioned Strixon. That one got obviously a lot of play on tour. It's kind of, I feel like Strixon in a lot of ways is like when you talk to people that know, you're like, okay, they have a very high opinion of and regard for Strixon, which well earned and well deserved. But you see a lot of better players with Strixon driving irons. Like, okay, I'd throw Mizuno's MP stuff in there as well. Is really, really good. And then, like you said, you have this.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back 2 years ago, what I was hitting, the TaylorMade, the Strixon at the time, and those really stood out. And then I hit the Ping, and I was like, wow. And that was not loving the look of it, right? Very, very Ping-like, very utilitarian, so to speak. But it just was like, hey, this thing kind of works really, really well for what it is. So
I wonder, my wondering on this one is what they've done to maybe create a little bit better feel. I see the word forged stamps on the hosel in clear and obvious. Painful, if I have a complaint about the crossover before, a little loud, little firm, not as soft. But True story. Let's go to the 240s. These are irons. Again, I'm guessing it's the replacement for the 230s. I-Series, so you do a good job of describing this as kind of like that side of their Players series. You got Blueprint S, Blueprint T as like the players, and then this is like also players, but a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost describe this, and hopefully people understand what I'm getting at. This is almost like the P790 of Players irons.
Mm-hmm.
Where it kind of sits at the end of a category, but it has broad appeal, so it kind of almost transcends its category. So yeah, this is on paper it's a Players iron. Gets a lot of play on tour. Gets LPGA play tour.
Yes,
but it's also again going back, easy enough to hit, and with a little bit of forgiveness here. So if you kind of like that Players iron shape, at least the compactness of it, this is one you could consider generally. So describe it as one that kind of outkicks its coverage a little bit. So interest to see where it goes. And I've never, we've talked about this earlier, like I've never been kind of an I-Series iron guy.
Sure.
But I do understand kind of where it fits. But again, it's one of those offerings that just works for more people than it should when you just kind of look at it on paper in the description. Yeah,
I'll be interested as we learn. There's going to be a couple questions, I'm sure, things I'll want to talk about. Visibly, you see kind of that checkered, I'm going to say it's carbon fiber. We don't know that for sure, but it looks to be, some carbon high in the face. If that's lighter, that removes weight that maybe they're putting, again,
put it low
to boost MOI.
Increase launch.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a little more heel-toe MOI. Maybe they did a little something with the sole. Don't know, but as a standalone iron, absolutely. As a matching iron to a set, if you go Blueprint S in shorter irons and 240s and longer, maybe, I don't know. But it's, there it is. Certainly keenly interested to see what that becomes. You love golf ball designs, Tony. You love lines on golf balls. More lines, the better, right? Is that fair?
I like a wide stripe.
Well, then you're gonna love what just came out, aren't you?
Oh my god!
What do you think about this? We're talking. Well, you go ahead. You tell the people.
Which one are we talking about first? Like we got. I mean, this is.
You dive in wherever you want.
Good year for golf ball design. So I guess we could start with the Vice.
Okay.
Their take on stripe. What are they calling it? Tracer.
Okay.
Vice Tracer technology, which is we teased this a few months ago when these popped up on the USGA list. And we're like, all right, when is this coming? When is this coming? And then they did their limited edition drop for the PGA Championship. And we saw kind of the first of those designs crop in there. And now we've got a full line of Tracer balls. And I describe it. It's very TP5 stripe like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very similar.
Kind of that. A little bit more going on the edges, I guess. A little bit in true Vice fashion, a little bit of character splashed in there. but otherwise very, very much true to that design. What's interesting though is the way Vice is promoting it is, we typically think about alignment features on golf balls, be they stripes, whatever they happen to be, right, as primarily for helping you align putts, right, as a putting green technology.
Yep.
But Vice is making the case that if you align the stripe / tracer pattern parallel to your driver, and there are a couple small like perpendicular features in there, the idea is it's going to help you deliver the driver a bit more squarely to the golf ball, I guess. I'm not that's for me a very much a your mileage may vary kind of thing. I'm not sure how much that's really going to help.
Is it thinking like, hey, if I line it up sideways basically, so this, and I assume the front of my driver is effectively perfectly flat, which it's not, but I'm just going to line up this flat surface with this parallel line, and that keeps my face more square. Is that kind of the thinking?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Okay.
So the official language here, what they've written, that makes it official. The Vice Tracer works with your driver crown to help you aim and deliver at impact. No swing thoughts, just confidence, contact, and cleaner shots off the tee.
Well, if a golf ball can take away my swing thoughts, I'm in. Yes. I don't care what it is, but if it can do that, fire me up. I'm good.
So there you go. Yeah.
All right. What else is out there? We got a couple more, at least one more.
Yeah, so we've got Titleist just dropped AIM 360 alignment. And again, I'm going to say it's the most prominent alignment feature on a Titleist golf ball to date. Mm-hmm. And I think, a couple things that... So I guess that's progress. Let's start there. Let's call that progress. You want to be nitpicky. It's only available on AVX and Torsoft for now. And it was kind of the language was interesting. They didn't really differentiate between any of Titleist's AIM products. So this AIM 360 is their first stripe all the way around the ball. Then they have kind of, enhanced alignment features or AIM features that aren't 360 on other balls. And, they did a test and found that it significantly improves golfers' ability to align the ball with the intended target. So imagine, right, we're just going to put a hole in the distance and say, put this down, align it at the target, and we're going to measure how successful you were at aligning to the target. It's not a measure of whether or not you made the putt. Just kind of a disconnect, right? Because when you think about putting, it's really sort of three different skills almost, right? You have kind of, all right, I've read the putt. Now I need to align properly. And then finally execute. And so we're in this case just looking at the ability to align without regard for execution, which I think is a reasonable way to approach it. Does it give you a better opportunity to start the ball on line? That's basically what we're looking at. It's similar. TaylorMade did the same thing, same type of test when launching Stripe for the first time too, and ended up in a similar place with that. So I think there is probably something to helping golfers align putts. Still on the golfer to execute. And my personal feeling, again, I believe that a wide stripe based on no data, this is all feels, guys, not going to misrepresent that, but my personal feeling is that wider stripes work better. And I'm very likely it's one of those things that is entirely golfer dependent, but as I said, step in the right direction for Titleist. I would love to see this on Pro V1, Pro V1X, Left Dash. I'd love to see a wider version. But this is typical Titleist. Like, let me just, stick my toenails into the water. I'm not even going to get my whole toe wet yet. So just moseying and cozying on up to it.
Man, good info.
Let's talk about these real quick, can we? Before we move on,
Turnbox. Let's talk about the Turnbox.
So this is and again, Callaway has been firing off limited edition Chrome Tours at a rate of almost one a week between major championships and just fun stuff. This certainly qualifies as the fun stuff, so we'll try and get right in here. So you got 4 golf balls, designs, hamburger, bag of chips,
Uh-huh.
hot dog. The
You
joke
love
I
your
made
hot
was,
dogs. Yep.
if you want to point your wiener at the target. That was so juvenile.
You have to say that with the
Almost-
box in front of your face because you can't say it with a straight
Oh.
face.
I dropped my wiener.
Yeah, well, here we go.
And then everybody's favorite, the Transfusion, the Golf Classic. So
Here we go.
absolutely no performance benefits to the design, but just trying to have a little fun, which I guess is okay.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I love it. More things happening. Always things happening. People, if you have questions, comments, things, post them below. Is this the coolest head cover? Here's something I want to know. If you think you have a head cover that's cooler than this one, show it to us. Show us what you got, because this was what limited. This was what Cobra and Max Homa.
Cobra X Chipotle, something in Max Homa loves Chipotle, and so let's make a burrito themed head cover because
What a great
why
idea!
not?
I love that idea.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. Are there other head covers out there, people? Do you have stuff? Do you have a really cool custom one? Have you seen any really fun driver head covers out there?
Have you seen the Cuddle Clones? You've seen Cuddle Clones.
I've seen Cuddle Clones. They're too realistic.
That's
I can't
a
do
little
it.
creepy.
They're too. They did it too good of a job. Like I actually would look at it as though it were like my dog's head on my golf bag, and I can't.
No,
it's too much. It's too good. I can't do it. I need something else. I'm sure somebody will have an idea. Maybe I'll get a Cuddle clone of you, Tony. Maybe I'll let them put your face on one of those human clones, you know? I don't know. That'd be kind of good. Anyway, we'll talk more when we get there next week. Until then, we out.